It's a Monday. That means this is a totally unlocked podcast. Welcome in Section 1904. Maybe this is an opportunity for somebody who's never clicked on Section 1904 before to hear what we're all about. I'm Darren Smith. He's John Gennaro. We are actually not in the same place. We're not in the same city. We're not in the same state. We're not even in the same time zone. We're 3 hours apart from one another time zone-wise. So we're going to get this podcast done here today. Of course, it's an important Monday. It's Padres, it's Dodgers, it's the weekend recap show. We'll also be setting you up for the rest of the week. But John, looks like you traveled safely. You're in the state of Florida. Sometimes good news, sometimes not so good news. How's it going?
The other thing we are different in is states of sobriety. Not that I'm drunk, but I'm definitely, I've had a beer today, and I brought along a second to join me on this podcast. I'm doing okay. I just got back from the beach. Florida weather is doing its Florida weather thing. The Atlantic Ocean is much warmer than the Pacific, and I've been spending time with some family that I only get to see about once a year, so it's okay. I do.
In Florida. I know Florida very well. I've spent a lot of time there over the last couple of years, as my dad's been in declining health. So where exactly are you? You're somewhere by a body of water, judging by pictures that have been posted on the Discord channel. Again, another bonus benefit if you do become a Section 1904 subscriber. This is one of the channels that we've created here to allow people into the community to interact with one another. So I saw this picture, but I must admit, I don't know exactly where you are. What city are you in?
I'm in Daytona Beach Shores. And I think the reason it's called Shores is I'm on the western side of the Intercoastal, which for anyone who doesn't know, the east coast of Florida, most of it anyway, is like a strip of land, and then there's like a small river, and then there's the mainland. And I'm on the west side of that river, so if I look out the balcony here, I can see a bunch of water, and then a little bit of land, and then the ocean.
Okay, and you've been in the water today. You've been on the ocean side. You've been in the Atlantic Ocean today, not on the bay, not on the Intercoastal.
No, yeah, we went down to the beach and nice. Parked for a couple hours and did the thing where you stand outside in the sun, you get hot, you get sweaty, then you jump in the water, you cool off, you come out, you have a beer, you heat up, you go back in the water. It's a lovely day.
As much as people from the state of California generally look down their noses at the state of Florida, there are many things that I like, and there are some things that I really don't like. Again, I've spent a lot of time there over the last couple of years when I was a kid growing up in New York. This is sort of our winter vacation. I had an uncle that lived in Fort Lauderdale, so it was pretty regular that we would go and visit him. But there are a couple of things since I've been there as an adult. Where you are, I'm not too familiar with. But, the whole freeway highway structure is kind of annoying to me in that it's difficult
awful
to get around.
Yep.
There's one freeway, it's the I-95 freeway, and then everything else is just sort of like you're on surface streets with stoplights, and it can become a little tedious. And these stoplights at these intersections, there's like 30 of them, and you turn left, you turn right, and you have to wait for things. But
a 16-lane city road with gigantic intersections. Yes, one thing it has on San Diego is they don't seem to enforce whether or not you're drinking on the beach. They're kind of okay with that. But more important than that is you can park your car on the beach, which is a really nice thing. So you don't have to worry about finding a spot in a parking lot or anything like that. You just pull up, they let you on the beach, you drive down until you find kind of an open slot, you park your car, and then you can hang out there by your car, or you can take all your stuff and walk a little bit closer to the water. It's lovely.
I might be mistaken in this, but I think the origins of the Daytona 500 actually started racing on the beach.
Correct. Yep. No, correct. Right. There's actually a bar here that was set up when they did the first race in Daytona. It's called the North Turn. It's where they turned around on the beach to go and complete the whole loop.
Oh, there you go. So, there's a little bit of history there for that. And, again, the tediousness of having to drive around on these federal highways or whatever. So, that's not the point. The other thing I would say, and I don't know if this is your experience here, and obviously you can go to places, Florida's a pretty big state. You can go down to Miami and you can find a lot of really good food. But parts of the state where I've spent a lot of time recently, the food is it's just underwhelming. It feels like it should be better. It feels like you're by an ocean and you should have the freshest seafood and you should have, all of this flavor, and there's no flavor to any of it.
Yeah.
It's such good seafood. It's such fresh seafood, but it's just very bland.
You nailed it, man. I had a red snapper last night, and I was like, this fish is so good, and it's so underseasoned.
Yeah. I don't know if it's because we live where we live and we're used to having some spice and some picante. And some salsa. I don't know what it is exactly, but every time I go someplace in Florida, I'm just like, I just feel like this should taste better. Like this is such high quality fish, and it just is like. And I don't want to put a bunch of salt on it. I mean, I like a little
That's not
bit
what
of
I want.
salt. Yeah, but I don't understand what the breakdown is here. That there's so much good food theoretically, and it's just not up to a standard.
A lot of old white people, Darren. A lot of old white people.
I think you're right. And the other thing, and again, you're there now, and we'll move on quickly because it is Padres and Dodgers. Obviously.
It is.
And we're coming off a pretty good weekend for the Pods and a fun night at Snapdragon Stadium, and even the tennis was amazing this past weekend. So we'll get into it all. And then the other thing is, there's a noticeable culture of really, really healthy people in Florida, people that get up early, they're on their bikes, they're jogging, they're doing all sorts of stuff, right? And even people that are a little bit older, they're aging very well. But then there's the complete opposite side of the spectrum, which is there's so many unhealthy people in the state of Florida. And obviously the convenience of weather, the convenience of not having to have a personal mobility device navigating its way through the snow of the Midwest or the Northeast or wherever is hugely appealing. But like you go into the 7-Eleven and it's like, somebody's on oxygen working there and smoking and and it's just like this, it's this complete, like these two polar opposites of like a really, really healthy culture, outdoor lifestyle, surfing, jogging, tennis, people aging gracefully, even if it's with the help of some modern science, a lot of Ozempic and plastic surgery. But then the flip side is, God, there's just so much obesity and like so many people on oxygen there that it is this contrast of human health that is almost impossible to ignore. Again, my experience, John, I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'd say that's mostly my experience, and also just the political nature of most of Florida. Like, I went out yesterday and had a guy, just talking my ear off about how great Kid Rock is and how we need more guys like Kid Rock in this world and more guys who will stand up for Donald Trump. And my one of my uncles is out here from San Francisco, and he said he saw a flag. It was an American flag that he said around the edge of it said, "Thank you, Elon Musk." And I was like, it's just not the type of shit you see as often in San Diego.
Well, you're right about that, and that's it is an observation that I've made in the past. Like the amount of public political support, and it's not an election cycle, is really noticeable. People will drive around in the state of Florida, and I've not really seen this in California. I don't see a bunch of people driving up and down the freeways with Gavin Newsom flags, but it's pretty common there that you will still find some people that will fly around with some Ron DeSantis flags and all that sort of stuff, and lots of Trump banners, all that sort of thing. Like it is, even here, whether there's a Democrat, right, California, ideologically speaking, nobody's, and you could say it's about the people. You could say that all you want, but even let's go back a couple of years with like Barack Obama. People weren't driving up and down with their Barack Obama flags. You know what I mean? Like, but in Florida, you just drive through these streets and like everybody's got one of these huge flags. Whether it's 2016, 2020, 2024, 2028 ones are out there as well. Like the whole concept of like the cult of Trump. Like if you're skeptical about that, go spend a few days in Florida and you'll find out exactly what that feels like, because that is everywhere where at least I have visited.
Yes, and that's definitely true here where I am and other places that I've been in Florida as well. Actually, since we're doing a weekend recap, at some point I want to talk about what's going on in LA. I mean, on Friday we ended the podcast and we're like, we didn't even talk about Trump and Elon Musk fighting, and good thing we didn't, because that seems to be over. But I do want to talk about these protests, but we should probably hold on to it, do it later, and talk about the sports, since probably a lot of people tuned in for Padres talk, but I'll leave it up to you. You're the host.
Well, I mean, I think there's another intersection here of sports and what it is that's happening in Los Angeles. I mean, I'm not the only, I was chatting with a friend of mine who's a member of the Los Angeles media, and I didn't tell him that I was going to bring it up, so I won't bring up his name. But, he pointed out that LAFC, the MLS team, issued a statement about what was going on in Los Angeles, and we saw the LAFC supporters had a huge banner in their supporter section.
And they went
saw
quiet,
some similar
right?
stuff at SDFC this past weekend. They were quiet. They decided they weren't going to do a bunch of chants, that they weren't going to do a bunch of the drumming, the things that have become synonymous with the supporter section at LAFC, which to me, is a standard of the league at this point.
Yeah.
I do think, we obviously at SDFC have taken from LAFC. So, to have that kind of influence here, some of the things that have been so successful at LAFC, you could tell me it's a rivalry. I'm not going to disagree. San Diego, Los Angeles, I get it. But, let's not kid ourselves here. Some of this stuff, has gravitated its way south from LAFC, most notably through Tom Penn. But anyway, they issued a statement. It was pointed out to me that the Dodgers haven't. I was also thinking about something that, who was it? Dylan Hernandez of the LA Times wrote about the Dodgers visiting the White House, and how he felt like that could come back to kind of blow up in the Dodgers' faces. Yeah. If in fact we would get to a point where inevitably it feels like we've gotten to now, which is with some of these protests. So, there is the sports angle to what it is that's happening in Los Angeles, and that the Dodgers are here in town in San Diego, and the beginning of a 3-game series between a 39-27 team and a 37-27 team. I think it stood out to a lot of people that the Dodgers haven't haven't issued any sort of statement, whereas, LAFC at least, and I haven't checked the other teams, but, at least one other professional sports franchise has done that.
Yeah. I mean, I had actually forgotten that they visited the White House and the weird little bits of controversy that came out of that as far as who would go and who didn't go. And that's an interesting point. But yeah, I saw someone saying, there's a game, I think there's a Club World Cup game in like a week in LA between, two teams that are not from America. And they were like, what's this going to look like? What's the crowd going to look like? What's the reaction to this going to be? Like we're at a place where they're saying that LA needs to be liberated, and just before we started recording, I saw Trump said that Gavin Newsom should be arrested, and it's one of those things where it's like you don't know what this is going to look like in a week, but the idea that it could end up affecting things like the Club World Cup, the actual World Cup, the Olympics in 2 years, like this is not out of the realm of possibilities at all.
No, it's not. I mean, even on a local level, we've seen a ban go into effect over the last week, however many days it was. It's hard to keep up with the news, especially as it relates to sports. But, we have seen complete bans of certain countries. I don't have the list completely in front of me because I wasn't expecting to chat about it. But one of those countries where people have been banned from traveling to the United States is Haiti. Yeah. Haiti's scheduled to play a Gold Cup game in San Diego at Snapdragon Stadium. Now, does that mean that their players aren't going to be allowed in? I don't think that's the case. I think that they have the travel visas, but in terms of any fan that would want to come here, if in fact that was the case, and don't ask me to tell you what the travel route would be from Haiti to the, but you get the point. Yeah. I think you understand what the point is. Are there games that are scheduled to be played in Los Angeles at BMO Stadium? I don't know.
I'll see.
I know there's some games scheduled at the Rose Bowl.
Maybe that was it. Maybe it was. Yeah, I didn't say BMO. I just said LA. But
yeah, Monterrey, Mexico. They're scheduled to play at the Rose Bowl coming up in a couple of weeks.
It was a PSG game. I know it was a PSG game.
Yeah, there's a PSG game for Seattle. There's a PSG game up in at the Rose Bowl as well. PSG. This is the UEFA Champions League champs. They will be playing at the Rose Bowl against Atletico Madrid from Spain. They will be playing. PSG's playing
Botafogo at the Rose Bowl, June 19th. So in 10 days.
Correct. Yeah,
Rose Bowl's not that far from where these protests are going on.
No. I think they're even playing sooner than that. I think they're playing this Saturday. So,
really?
PSG is playing Atletico Madrid this Saturday, I think.
There you go.
Yeah. Whatever the 15th is. Today's the 9th, 10th. 11, 12, Sunday.
Sunday.
So that'll be Sunday. Yeah, not that far. Pasadena, and I've seen some video from Pasadena too, by the way.
Yeah.
I've seen some video from Pasadena, some of these protests. So, this is a tournament that starts this week. That starts on Saturday in Miami. So, good luck. I don't really know. I mean, Inter Miami is hosting games at, what is it called now? Hard Rock Stadium, I think it is.
Oh,
at Hard Rock Stadium.
That where the Dolphins play?
Yeah. By the way, they're hosting a team from, guess where, John?
Haiti?
Yeah, that's right. Egypt. So, I don't know. And then there's another game, a team from Brazil is taking on a team from Portugal. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really sure. By the way, they're also having a really, really tough time selling tickets to these. So much so that the prices have been slashed, starting at like $350 down to about $50, $75, somewhere in that range. So if you're looking for a bargain on some Cub tickets, you could probably find them out there somewhere, and you don't even have to search high and low on the secondary market. Like, they're just trying to get people in these buildings at this point. So I don't know.
Speaking of, I have a lot of thoughts on Padres Brewers, and I have a lot of thoughts on Padres Dodgers, and I do want to talk French Open with you. But while we're here, the SDFC friendly on Saturday against Club América was not on TV, and I was unable to catch your radio broadcast, although I'm sure it was stellar. I did read a couple articles, especially the one in the UT that I maybe Ziegler wrote, I don't remember, maybe Kirk Kenny, that was just laced with like vitriol for just how little Club América tried. They were like mad at how poor the level of talent was and the little level of effort that the team from Mexico put out there. That's kind of what I was going into. You started this show by saying it was a really fun night at Snapdragon Stadium. So what was your takeaway from this game?
It was really fun from the standpoint of broadcasting on behalf of SDFC. I thought that they really played very well. I think that them playing well probably had something to do with Club América not looking very good. But I don't know what everybody was expecting. I don't know if was the point of what you read that the roster wasn't what anybody had hoped for, because 24-person roster, 20 players were wearing triple digits, which means that they are either under 20 players or academy players for Club América. They were just never going to send their A roster here, especially their A roster, which just lost the previous weekend at LAFC for a spot in the Club World Cup. So they lost in the final of the Mexican League Championship, lost 2-0 to Toluca, and then they lost this opportunity to go to the Club World Cup and make a bunch of money, potentially, for the club. So, they lost out here, and it's a little bit of a crisis going on with Club América as far as they're capable of having a crisis. But, this was an international club friendly. It was always going to be academy players. It was always going to be backup players. So I don't know if is that the point, or was the point that they just went out there and went through the motions? I think they weren't very good, but I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that SDFC actually was really good. And SDFC put out a B lineup as well. There are players that played in this match that I've never even seen before. Right. Seriously. Like I've seen Manu Dua perform on the practice field, but we've never seen him on a field. We've never seen him on the squad. We've only heard of Heine Bruseth. He was a rumor until he played 90 minutes this past weekend. So, guys were just given opportunities. I will say it was one of my favorite games to be a part of. 32,000 people showed up at Snapdragon Stadium. It was a very festive environment. Everybody seemed to get, a lot of people, it was festive, and it was what it was. And it was, Club América comes with these high expectations. I mean, it's like seeing the Yankees out there, and it is the pinstripes, even if it's not the big league club. And there is a club there that has the kind of expectations, and it has the size and the notoriety that SDFC aspires to be somewhere down the road. It's not going to be this year. It's not going to be next year. It's not going to be in 5 years, 10 years. It's going to be decades down the road. This is what SDFC aspires to be. So they would tell you that. It's not just me. But, getting to see like our backup players play for extended periods of time and have some success. And Milan Olaski absolutely made the most of his opportunity, scoring a couple of goals. And the goals were great. All 3 goals were great. Tomas Angel, I thought, was having sort of a sub kind of, disappointing kind of night. Like he had some opportunities here, and it's an opportunity for him to show Mikey Varas that he deserves more minutes than he's currently getting. And he blew a couple of opportunities, but then at the end, he scored an absolute banger of a goal, which is great, which is a perfect cherry on top. Got a clean sheet out of it. Players played well. Players were given opportunities. It was good. Like, it was just like a good overall night. A night I'm sure that some of these guys will never, ever forget. I mean, I won't forget that one. That was a ton of fun. And as we said on the broadcast, it doesn't count, but it meant something. It doesn't count, but it mattered. And it mattered to a lot of our players as well.
Yeah, and when I looked up to it, I mean, we had talked about this, kind of comparing it to like an NFL preseason game. Like, hey, the guys who don't normally play are going to get a shot to, impress the coaches and then make a name with the fans and all that stuff. I want to read to you. Kirk Kenny wrote this, and I don't know that Kirk Kenny usually covers soccer, but this is the first few paragraphs of his game recap. And it's funny that you mentioned the Yankees. And then at the end of this, he does a thing that I really, really, really hate when journalists do. So look forward to that. Fans of Club América showed up in droves for Saturday night's friendly against San Diego FC at Snapdragon Stadium. Too bad Club América didn't. This wasn't the Mexican Giants' first team or second team. Third? Fourth? Maybe. That much was evident when Club América came out for warm-ups. All but 4 of the 24 players on its roster wore triple-digit jerseys. The starting lineup included players wearing numbers like 185, 186, 237, and 303. It wasn't because most of the lower numbers were retired like the New York Yankees. Nope. And then this part. Quote, I don't know if these guys have even played together, one press box observer said at halftime. Why are we doing random anonymous quotes from the press box? I hate
because
that
Kirk
shit.
Kenny doesn't know how to write about the sport, if we're
I
being
hate
honest.
that
and
so
I also
much.
talked to Kirk Kenny, and he made it quite clear to me, like, he was given this assignment, and he's not somebody, he's there to just be able to file a story. You know, and I, and Kirk can listen to this if he wants, because it's the same thing that he and I talked about, because he was asking me some of these questions. He was asking while some of these guys, look at John drinking a Miller Lite during this podcast.
Just
Look
for
at
you, buddy.
That's some brewer loving right there, isn't it? I will say a cold Miller Lite on the beach on a warm day in Florida sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
it's
it's
raining
all right.
here. It's kind of cold here. It's kind of rainy too. Damp, woke up puddles.
It's
Anyhow,
it's like 94 and humid here.
but it's not the deepest bench in journalism. The Union Tribune writers. So you get what you get. And Kirk was asking me some of these questions before the game, and I was listening, trying to think, like, did I say that to him? I don't know that I did. But the whole thing about the triple digit numbers is actually kind of interesting if you really want to know it.
For sure.
So Club América believes that your first team players get single digits and double digit numbers, and if you're not a first team player, you don't get a first team number.
I think that's
and
cool.
It's a way for them with a youth academy, and it's a way for them with an under 20 roster. It's a way for them to say, like, this is who you have to aspire to get to that point. You might want to wear the number 10 someday, but we're not going to give you the number 10 just because nobody's wearing the number 10 or our regular number 10 isn't here because he's not part of this. So in the meanwhile, you're going to be 303. And then, you can aspire and you work your way up to being a first team member. And with first team membership becomes first team rights and first team characteristic. So that's why they do it. This isn't, we just don't have any of those players. We only have one roster. So it's all we got. I mean, Mikey had 4 subs in this game. That's all he had. And one of them got hurt when he stepped onto the field, and Anis Saidi, that's all he had. He had to put Chris McVeigh out there, who's played every fucking minute of every game. So, it's like, oh man, we were one twisted ankle away from having to put a backup goalkeeper out there to play an outfield spot. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have those kind of players. So, but that's why, and I kind of dig it. Like, I actually kind of like that. I like that, no, like, you guys down there, we're going to keep it consistent. This is the number you wear when you're playing in our youth system, and this is the number that you're going to wear, and everybody's going to know. And then one day, if you're good enough, you will find out what the first team privileges are all about. But I thought, good.
I bet that's the most fun Mikey Varas has had in a while. Like,
I can't imagine that he didn't go home and wasn't incredibly proud of the way the team played.
Right, but that's what I mean.
They played so consistently and looked exactly like they did, whether it was Anders Dryers down there or whether it was Chucky Lozano. And they're not as quick, they're not as connected, but they played compact. They pass the ball around. Halftime, it's 10 shots to nothing. You know, like they played on the front foot. Ulaski scored a great goal with his left foot. Then the second goal was ridiculous. Verhoeven had just an unreal cross into the box that Ulaski somehow gets home. And then the free kick at the end. I'm with you, man. You know, if he was asking questions of his roster, like, hey, guys, you know, this is your opportunity. I made the comparison, John, that you will understand. I remember, you know, trying to break into broadcasting, and I was given an opportunity to do updates on the weekend on the Mighty 1090, right? Like there's like very few shifts that are more meaningless than doing weekend updates on the Mighty 1090 back in 2003. But those were the most important updates ever for me. Because that was an opportunity. All I needed was one person to be listening. I needed the boss to be listening. For him and like, I put everything into those updates. Those updates meant everything to me, even if it meant absolutely jack shit to anybody else who was driving around on a Saturday and was listening, because who really cares, right? But like, those updates meant everything to me. And I would think if you're one of these guys, that's exactly what it meant. And that's, I think, something that translates and everybody in sports can understand. Sometimes you're just looking for an opportunity, and these guys are given opportunities that they aren't getting with first-team players who are successful, who have helped contribute to a 30-point first half of the first season ever, right, with playoff aspirations. But this was an opportunity for some of these guys to say, hey, coach is going to give me 70 minutes. Some of these guys got 90. I didn't even know that some of these guys could play 90 minutes, John, and they played 90 minutes, and they played pretty well, and they showed some mental toughness, and you know, they were doing a lot of things. They were just doing a lot of things. It wasn't just the 3 goals. You know, I mentioned about Thomas Angel. He was making tackles in the defensive third late in this match. I was like, that is impressive. His coach is going to like that because he can hang his head. He's an emotional guy. He could hang his head because he's blown a couple of opportunities to score. And, oh, by the way, Milan Ulaski scoring too, right? Since, like, you know, which one of these guys are going to get more minutes? So, well, and like, so that he was still doing that told me like he was still into it.
Also, like, an opportunity is an opportunity, but for those guys, it might be a bigger opportunity because we don't know how healthy Chucky is. We don't know if Chucky's back in a week or two ready to play. You know, for SDFC, there might be a starting spot open for one of those guys for a game or two before he gets completely right. And I'm sure part of it is they look and they go, hey, Chucky scores. Sure, Chucky scores. But also, Chucky plays defense, and that's a big part of his value.
Not only that, but, you know, Paddy McNair had to leave Northern Ireland camp because, you know, he had some sort of groin pull or what have you. So you might be looking for a center half here. Ian Pilcher, we haven't seen him since March. So maybe this is a way for him to say, hey, coach, if you need me for a little bit, I got your back. All right, let's do a little bit of Padres.
Before we get into the actual Padres, their series against the Brewers and against the Dodgers, I do just want to make a point to say that the subreddit on reddit.com for the Padres, and I think maybe also the San Diego FC one, invited you and I to show up and do an AMA and ask me anything this coming Thursday, which is a Padres off day, and also the day after the Padres-Dodgers series is over. So anyone who is interested in asking you and me anything can do so there. So hopefully that community is ready for it, and hopefully some other people join in the fray as well. So now we can talk actual baseball.
All right. And when you say ask us anything, like, is this something where like I have to be on a phone, or are we just answering like in a chat room? What's the deal?
We will log in to Reddit, which is kind of like a forum, kind of like a chat room type of thing, and the people will kind of comment questions, and we will reply to those questions. I don't think we need to answer everything, but people certainly will have the ability to ask us anything.
Okay. And what time is this?
That's a great question. It'll be on the website. I'll put it on section1904.com. I think it's like 9 a.m. or something like that, but I'm not entirely sure. You can check the subreddit, and it says it. I just don't have it in front of me. And I'm going to post something on Section 1904 about it either later today or tomorrow.
By the way, something I was not expecting when you start thinking about, well, what sort of questions are you going to get when you give other people the opportunity to ask you literally anything? I don't know that you did or didn't see what Ben and Woods did, Ben and Woods After Dark or Ben and Woods Off the Air, where a question was asked to Ben Higgins about his favorite sexual position, and he actually said cowgirl. I was surprised by that coming from Ben Higgins, I got to say.
When I saw Ben and Woods doing an off-the-air thing, I remember thinking, like, why would they do that? That's really interesting. And now my theory, and it's just a theory, is that Ben maybe offered this information privately to Woods and Paul, and they were like, oh, we got to get him on camera. We got to put a microphone in front of him and start talking about his favorite sexual positions. Definitely a surprise coming from someone like Ben Higgins that it would be cowgirl.
I'm older than Ben, and even I was like, oh, like it's like my dad just said something that makes me uncomfortable. You know what I mean? I just was not expecting that from Ben. All right, real quick here. So we're going to kind of go quicker through the Padres than we had planned to for a couple of reasons. Some of you with an astute ear probably noticed that there's been a change in the sound of this. We don't want to draw too much attention to it, but the website that we were using just suddenly crashed. So we're using an alternate method for recording this podcast. But John, neither here nor there. 3 games, Petco Park, Padres, Dodgers. When I say Padres, Dodgers, what does that mean to you? I just say Padres, Dodgers, word association. I don't know if it's a series. I don't know if it's a moment. Padres, Dodgers, go.
I wish I could succinctly say it in a couple of words and boil it down like that. But my thoughts on Padres Dodgers right this second is that it feels like it exists in a world outside of this reality. Like, I don't feel like we can look at, oh, the Padres have been doing this and the Dodgers have been doing this, and therefore that's who they'll be in this series. Because this series and this rivalry is what these teams have been waiting for, building towards since the playoffs last year. So I feel like you throw out everything that has happened to this point for both teams, and you hope that both of them show up and play absolutely their best baseball, which would be good because both teams are definitely not playing their best baseball right now.
So you don't link like automatically. I say Padres Dodgers for somebody who might not know it. You don't go, oh well, it was the Padres beating the Dodgers in the NLDS a couple of years ago. It was the 20. Maybe it's just as recent as last postseason.
It's the scoreless. Yeah, it's the run of innings without scoring a run. Right. For sure, if you want to look at it kind of historically and you're thinking about the entire Dodgers-Padres rivalry or relationship or whatever, but I was going into this going, hey, it's a 3-game series, and the Dodgers are 1 up on the Padres for the lead in the NL West. It's essentially a series for who's going to be in first place in the NL West by the end of it. So I'm laser locked in on today and this week, and a little less locked in on what happened last year.
Okay, so then for you, because when I started doing this, right, and this is the early 2000s, 2003, it really wasn't that far removed from one of the defining moments for Padre fans was, and maybe you know where I'm going, one of the more defining moments for Padre fans when you would ask about Padres and Dodgers, which had been lopsided, obviously, since the Padres came into the National League in 1969, was the 1996 3-game series, the final 3 games of that series. Both teams had clinched a playoff spot. The Padres went up to Dodger Stadium, and they took 3 out of 3. They swept the Dodgers. They won the division. They won the NL West, and the Dodgers were a wild card team. Padres ended up losing to St. Louis, and the Dodgers didn't go very far either. But that was still fresh in people's minds. 1996, which is, God almighty, is that 30 years ago? That is hard to believe. That is 30 years ago. Going on 30 years. So, there's a lot of people that will be in the building that weren't even alive for that. So they will have no memory of Chris Gwynn and other things that happened. Yes, Chris Gwynn, Tony had a brother who played big league ball, if you're new to this. So, he was the big hero of that weekend as well. But you're right. It's probably much more modern. It's probably much more about, well, what was it that happened the last times these teams played? You know what I would love to see for as bad as he's been? Here's what I would love to see. Fernando Tatis Jr., leadoff home run. Stop talking about the losing streak. Leadoff home run, bottom of the first inning tonight at Petco Park against Dustin May. Wouldn't that would really put that to rest? I know you can't go back and you can't undo what it was that happened during the postseason, but in terms of any potential carryover for a team that's not pitching well, and the Dodgers are not pitching well, the Padres are not hitting well, what a battle. But how about if you just flip that right out of the gate tonight? You get Fernando out of a slump, and you put to rest what it was, that happened at the end of last year, at least as it's related to the start of this series.
Yeah, what was how many innings did they go scoreless at the end of that series?
24.
In the playoffs? 27? 24. So yeah, you know what's going to happen if that doesn't happen. They'll go one inning and someone will be like, well, that's 25.
Yeah.
They'll go two. Well, that's 26. And that you would love to avoid that. So yeah, even if it's a Tatis double and Arise, knocks him in with a single or something, just something to get on the board in the first inning would feel very good. As far as your 96 reference and looking at it more historically as far as what this rivalry means to me personally, 96 was before I became a Padres fan. I became a Padres fan in the very beginning of the 1998 season. That's when I moved to San Diego, so I have no relation to that. But the Padres beating the Dodgers in, 2021 to go to the NLCS?
2023.
2023 to go to the NLCS. That series where it started raining and all the fans were singing all 2022. I think that's right. I think we're splitting the difference here. Because 2023 was a lost season for the Padres. So the fans singing all the small things while it's raining, and then that moment of leaving that stadium knowing that we had conquered the Dodgers that we just thought was this unconquerable giant beast that we couldn't get past. That is that might be my best sports moment ever as a fan. I just remember leaving that stadium and just being like, I can't believe that just happened, and just being so happy and so proud of the team and all that stuff. So yeah, there's certainly a little extra juice in this, not just for the fans, but also for the players, I think.
Well, I think you're right about that, and I will defend anybody who says that, because sometimes what happens is you get fans from other fan bases, or even fans of this team, of the Padres, I'm sure, would say, "Oh God, beating a team in the second round of the playoffs, really?" But it was so much more than that, and I wasn't able to enjoy that. That was the year that I had COVID, so I had to watch that outside on my front deck. But I enjoyed it so much just watching everybody that night, as you mentioned, inside of Petco Park. And also because of how meaningful it was. It felt like it was so meaningful because we will remember that Peter Seidler would often talk about slaying the dragon to the north. And it really felt like that was a moment where his vision came true, where they slayed the dragon to the north. Now, obviously, Peter, if he were still around, would tell you that he ended up being disappointed at the end of that year because the team lost in the NLCS to the Philadelphia Phillies. So, he would admit that. It's not that was the only goal, but it was a major goal for the team. So I will defend anybody who's like, I shared that moment with my dad. I shared that moment with a friend. I shared that moment with a kid. Anybody who enjoyed, I absolutely wholeheartedly would support somebody saying that was one of the best sports memories that they've ever had. That's what sports is all about. Memories just like that, not just the final destination. So I love that's a big part of your sports fandom here with Padres and Dodgers. The one thing, though, I would say, I heard Manny say it during the spring training sessions. He talked a little bit about unfinished business against the Dodgers. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. You can't go back and finish that business. That business was finished by the Dodgers. They won. This is a new one. This is another chapter in it, but that chapter's done. So I don't know. He played really, really well. Had a dramatic home run yesterday, John. But I don't know about the whole unfit. You can't do anything about what it was that happened last year. You just can't.
Wait. I have a counter argument to that, which is, when they quote unquote slayed the dragon. We're just talking about in 2022. That was the moment where it was like, okay, we're little brothers no longer, right? We are on your level. Even if you beat the Dodgers, but it wasn't this feeling of like we're so much better than the Dodgers. It was we are on their level now. We have caught up. And granted, they have added Shohei Ohtani since then, but I feel like last year we went into that playoff series feeling like the Padres and the Dodgers are on the same level. And early on in that series, it felt like this could go either way. This could easily go the Padres' way. These two teams are even. And then, 23, 24 scoreless innings in a row from a team that, had kind of struggled with their pitching before that series. It just made you feel like, okay, maybe we didn't catch up. Maybe it was just luck. Maybe. So I think the unfinished business is getting back to a point where the Padres don't feel like the little brother and they don't feel like they're playing catch up. They feel like it's almost a coin toss between which one of these teams would win a series. Now, if they get swept by the Dodgers and they really struggle offensively, that's going to be a problem. But if they win 2 out of 3, or God forbid sweep the Dodgers, and they leave this series in first place in the NL West, even if it is short-lived, I think that's almost gets you halfway to finishing the business of, okay, we are on that level. We just, we had a few bad games last year, but we are on their level. We are as good as them. I think that's what it is. I don't think it's necessarily the series.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair point, but you can't, you choked that away. You had an opportunity. You're never going to get that team back. You know what I mean? Like, you're never going to get that team back that was so good in the second half. Hopefully history's starting to repeat itself. Some of these guys that we're watching here, I just feel like there's a lot of Matt Waldron energy on the 2025 Padres. You know what I mean by that? Like, guys that are unexpectedly contributing in ways that none of us could have predicted, and you don't really believe it's going to continue in August, September, October. But it feels like there's a lot of that Matt Waldron energy going on right now, so that you can get to guys who maybe you were expecting to rely on a little bit more to be bigger contributors somewhere as the season goes on. But you're just never going to get that team back. You're never going to get the team back that everybody admitted, everybody believed was really the best team in the National League and maybe the best team in all of baseball. So I don't know that you can, but I think you're right. I think it's just another chapter in the saga of Padres and Dodgers and the expectations that really are pretty much where they were. It just is always such a mind trip to think about how much potentially would have changed if the Padres in one of those innings just would have cranked out a 3-run home run, and beat the Dodgers. Dave Roberts was going to get fired. He was going to get fired. This was not a well-kept secret. Skip Schumacher was going to be the next manager of the Dodgers. You can take that as fact. Dave was going to get canned, and Skip Schumacher was going to be the next manager. And instead, Dave gets an extension. He's still there. And everything just it's the whole sliding doors of what could have happened if the Padres ran into one home run in that final game up at Dodger Stadium, having a chance to close it out, and they just couldn't seal the deal. It's kind of crazy and bonkers even to think about it, as useless as it is to actually commit a bunch of time and energy into it.
Yeah, I'm going to look back for a second just so we don't completely blow past, because this is a weekend recap podcast. I don't want to completely blow past what the Padres did against the Brewers. They came very close to sweeping the Brewers. They ended up taking 2 of 3. And that's a team that going into that series, like me, you, a couple other Padre fans were like, I don't know, the Brewers are pretty good, and the Padres look pretty bad. I don't know if this is going to work out well for them. And then despite the fact that they didn't really score that well, this is your Matt Waldron energy. They got fantastic starting pitching from Randy Vasquez, Stephen Kolek, Ryan Bergert. The bullpen was pretty strong throughout the entire series. And Darren, I do have a question for you. Can you name for me the probable starters for the LA Dodgers in this upcoming series?
Dustin May tonight. I have not seen an announced starter for game 2.
There isn't
and then
one.
A guy that I've never heard of who's carrying a 10 ERA is set to go Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock at Petco Park.
Right, so that's the Matt Waldron energy, right? Of like, you're just kind of counting on dudes that had never really done it before to come in and play big roles. And for the Padres, that worked out pretty well against the Brewers. And now the Brewers are not the Dodgers, but, the Dodgers are kind of in the same spot. I had a friend of mine who's a Dodgers fan last week be like, the Dodgers they just suck so much. And I'm like, really? You hate being in first place? But then I looked at their team and I'm like, I kind of get it, man. Like, Snell is hurt. Tyler Glasnow is hurt. Tony Gonsolin's hurt. Blake Trinan's hurt. Evan Phillips is hurt. A lot of their starting lineup is just not really hitting. Now, why are they in first place? Because Freddie Freeman is amazing, because Shohei Ohtani is amazing, and because Mookie Betts is amazing. But the Dodgers are not this like all-powerful beast that just can't be beaten or tamed. I watched a couple of their games this last series against the Cardinals, and I don't think the Cardinals are any great shakes, and the Dodgers had a really hard time putting them away. So I do think that the Padres, with all their Matt Waldron energy, have a chance to come in and maybe steal this series. And that's not going to be finishing the business, but I do think it's going to put a little pep in the step of the Padres and be like, hey, we got a chance to win the NL West here. Even if that's not true, they can think it.
Right. And I've seen, we just referenced Stephen Woods. I've seen him suggest on social media, maybe the Dodgers are playing a little bit of possum with some of their pitchers, that they're just putting guys on the IL just so they're like, whatever, regular season. We don't really need Glass now, so let's just put them on the shelf for a little while. I don't really know if that's exactly what's happening. I will defer to him because he probably follows it a lot closer than I. I barely saw any of the games this past weekend. I saw a little bit on Friday night. Saturday night, I had SDFC. And quite honestly, I totally got taken away by the French Open, so I missed most of Sunday as well. I will say I did see people commenting on Tyler Wade's base running, and I thought, you people are missing one of the greatest tennis matches of all time. I resisted the urge to judge anybody because, as you know, I'm very much to each their own. If that's what you like doing on a Sunday morning, then that's what you should do on a Sunday morning. So I didn't have a ton of exposure, but I saw the scores, and I thought it was pretty self-explanatory. So, and then, good luck trying to read any of this goddamn Kevin Acey stuff from time to time. I need a mathematician to explain some of the stuff that Kevin's writing here. Padres relievers have worked at least 3 innings in 15 of the last 17 games. And if you remember, almost every one of those has been with a 1 or 2 run. Bullpen has been responsible for losing 4 leads in the last 17 games, including 1 in extra innings. But a reliever has also earned the win in 8 of the team's 10 victories in that span. And the bullpen has put up a collective 161 while stranding 25 of 35 inherited runners. That's the 3rd lowest bullpen ERA in the majors during that time. And the Padres bullpen has thrown 11 1/3 more innings than either of the 2 bullpens with a lower ERA in that. What are you talking about? I can't follow this, Kevin. I cannot follow what it is that you're writing. And then he goes on to talk about the offense. Padres have scored more than 3 runs in just 6 of their past 16. So we're using a 17-game scale 5 paragraphs ago. Now we're going on 16 games. Well, which is it? Is this important or is this not important, Kevin? Padres are batting .218 and averaging 3.4 runs a game in that span. That ranks 26th and 27th, respectively, since May 23rd, despite out being scored by 2. I don't know. What is your point?
My takeaway when I read all that was I was like, okay, so the pitching's been good. Got it. And then he gets to the offense, and he's like, look, Manny's been good. He's got like 7 home runs in his last 16 games. Apparently, Manny's in the 16-game bracket. And then he goes on to be like, Tatis has been terrible. Let's talk about it. Arise has been terrible. Let's talk about it. Jackson Merrill, it has been so bad. Here's some quotes from a conversation where Jackson Merrill's talking about he can't see the ball anymore because he's so off. And I was like, oh, okay. So what you're telling me is the pitching's been good, and if Manny wasn't on like a heater, they'd be screwed. But they're lucky that Manny's on a heater and that the overworked bullpen has been pretty good.
All right, good. Well, I just get confused. Like, what start and stop point should I be paying attention to when it comes to my Padre coverage? 16 games, 17 games? And then there was this tidbit. This was my favorite. Padres have done something that has been done just 18 times since 1901. John, yesterday was their 4th victory this season when having exactly 3 hits. The record of 5 such wins is shared by the 1968 Twins and the 2014 Cardinals. The Padres still have a chance to do something that no team has ever done by going undefeated in 3-hit games.
I saw that, and my honest-to-God thoughts, and I have not looked this up, I was like, this Padres team does feel like a Cardinals team from 10 years ago where, like, at the end of the season, you're just like, how the fuck were these guys here? Their lineup can't hit. Their pitchers are mediocre. Like, how are they here? And then my other question was, and I didn't look this up, I was like, I wonder if that was also a Mike Schilt team.
Oh, well, probably. Now I'm trying to find out, what did the 1968 Twins even do? I mean, was this something that we should aspire?
Did the 2014 Cardinals, like, win a title or something? I'll look it up.
Let me start with the 1968. Is this something that the Padres should aspire to do? The 1968 Twins were 79 and 83, so that's not very good. Let's see, what was the other year? The 2014.
The 2014 Cardinals went 90 and 72 with manager Mike Matheny. So Mike Schilt was not the manager, and I don't. Let's see. They won the NLDS and they lost to the Giants. That was probably a Bochy year. But yeah, no, these are teams that are flawed, and they're flawed in that they can't hit, but their pitching is good enough to win without hitting sometimes.
Those are some tidbits. Listen, I just did a
Those are some
broadcast here where I
tidbits.
carried on for about 5 minutes about some random Norwegian town that nobody ever heard of. So I appreciate it. I appreciate that Kevin took the time to do it. I will just say sometimes I'm like, man, is this relevant stuff or is this just some stat vomit? I can't tell the difference. I don't know.
Sometimes it's both. It can be both.
And I love Kevin, as everybody knows. So I just think sometimes I read these columns, I'm like, what? Just tell me what the fucking point is, could you? Because I don't know I don't know what you're saying, and you're just jumping from one arbitrary point to another. Anyhow, all right. Listen, we've had a handful of technical issues, so I think we'll wrap it up there. Other things that we're going to talk about this week, we'll explain. But thank you. This is a good thing. This was free today, so everybody could enjoy this one. Front row seat. If you're a subscriber to Section 1904, it arrives each morning, usually by about 7:15, 7:30, maybe even earlier because John's on the East Coast. So he gets up and going before. That's another thing, another huge difference. East Coast beach culture, West Coast beach culture. East Coast beach culture, get out there early. Get out there in the morning. West Coast beach culture, afternoon. Usually a lot later, at least in my experiences. So John will be up and early here for the next couple of days while he's in Florida. We'll end it here just because, as I said, like we've really had a little bit of chaos going on behind the scenes. So we've got interviews lined up for the rest of the week. We'll save the NBA chatter for somewhere else as we'll keep the week going. But start that free subscription if you haven't already. We appreciate all of your support. John, continued safe travels eating the bland seafood from Florida, and we'll do it again on Tuesday.
Sounds good.